Hello. In the last video I talked about the competition for cathedral status between Bath and Wells after the Norman conquest. In this episode I'm taking a closer look at Wells Cathedral. The site of the cathedral is next to what is known as St Andrew's Well. Archaeology has revealed a number of early structures associated with the well, including a timber Anglo-Saxon chapel, suggesting that although its waters may not rival those of Bath, the well was a site of significance from early times. A stone-built Minster church, recorded in a charter of 766, describes a minster near the Great Spring. Wells became a cathedral in 909, when a diocese based at Sherborne was divided, with Wells covering the county of Somerset. When Bishop John of Tours moved his seat to Bath Abbey in 1090 and began building a new cathedral there, the chapter at Wells set about a determined campaign to regain their lost status. In 1174, a new building was begun alongside the Anglo-Saxon church, using local limestone from Dalting Quarry. A former member of the chapter, Jocelyn of Wells, was appointed Bishop of Bath in 1206, and in 1224 received papal permission from Honorius III to use the title Bishop of Bath and Wells, effectively restoring Wells to cathedral status, albeit shared. The new church at Wells was an ambitious project. To allow services to continue while construction was underway, the Lady Chapel of the Saxon church was left standing. The rest was demolished. Tombs of former Saxon bishops were transferred into the new building, along with a font dating from around 700 and an early 12th century cope chest of local oak. The Lady Chapel of the Saxon Minster was converted into a chantry chapel for Bishop Robert Stillington in the late 15th century and destroyed at the Reformation. Wells exemplifies the grand three-storey church architecture I talked about in part 2 of this series, with an arcade, triforium and clerestory. Work was at an early stage when it was interrupted for 5 years after Pope Innocent III excommunicated King John in 1208 and all churches were closed. Bishop Jocelyn and many other members of the clergy left for France. Soon after work recommenced, Bishop Jocelyn brought in a new master mason, Adam Locke. The nave, transepts and parts of the choir, with pointed two-centred arches, are early Gothic in style and date from this period. The cathedral was almost complete when Jocelyn died in 1242. By then, the chapter at Wells numbered 54, making it the second largest in England after Lincoln. A new octagonal chapter house was added off the north transept in 1306, above an undercroft that acted as a strong room for the cathedral's valuables. The well-worn steps are original. The cloisters were remodelled in the 15th century in perpendicular Gothic style. In the 1320s and 30s, the east end was rebuilt with a new Lady Chapel. Over time, the foundations proved inadequate for the weight of the crossing tower. Cracks began to appear. Master Mason William Joy came up with an innovative solution. Between 1338 and 1348, the famous scissor arches were inserted. The west front, completed in the mid-13th century, is an unparalleled piece of theatre, 30 metres high and 45 metres wide, forming a dramatic backdrop for burials and other ceremonies taking place on the open green in front of the cathedral. Towers were added at the end of the 14th century. 149 of an original 176 statues survive. There are figures from the Old Testament, past bishops holding foundation charters confirming their legitimacy, a group of 4 saints and assorted royalty. Over the door are the Virgin Mary with the Christ child, and at the top, Christ surrounded by angels and resurrection scenes. In the medieval period, the whole surface was whitewashed and detail brightly painted in red, blue, green and gold. On Palm Sunday, with huge crowds gathered on the green, the facade delivered a spectacular multimedia experience with the sound of unseen trumpeters and choristers on platforms behind the wall echoing from holes between the carved angels. Early Gothic lancet windows above the west entrance give way to the plate tracery of first phase decorated Gothic. From the late 14th century, the busy daily schedule of services was regulated at Wells by a rather splendid clock. The Science Museum in London now houses the mechanism on loan, but the original face, thought to be the oldest surviving clock face in the world, can still be seen in the cathedral, with its automated jousting knights. There is also a quarter jack, a figure who strikes a 15-minute bell, known enigmatically at Wells as Jack Blandifer. As well as keeping time, the original clock tracked the movement of the sun and showed the phases of the moon. Bishop Jocelyn added the Bishop's Palace and was responsible for building a close for the cathedral canons, who had previously lived in houses in the city. The Vicar's Close of 1360 claims to be the oldest intact, purely residential street in Europe. Chimneys were added in the 15th century. Today, the Vicar's Close is mostly occupied by cathedral employees and members of the choir, the Vicar's Choral. Next time, I'm going to take a look at Exeter Cathedral. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.